All right, guys, how's it going? Members only video, and what we're going to talk about tonight, or in this video, is how the Binance ICOs trade out. And the reason why we're doing that is because tonight there's going to be another ICO listing. This is going to be for the seller token, CELR. Seller token is going to open trading for seller BNB, seller BTC, and seller USDT. So they're going to have dollar pair for this as well on March 25th, 2019, 4 a.m. UTC. 4 a.m. UTC is midnight Sunday Eastern time. So that's midnight, March 25th. That's tonight. Today's the 24th. So we're going to be right at midnight on Eastern time. So whatever time zone you're in, based, you can make the calculation based off of Eastern, but midnight tonight Eastern time, they will list the token for trading. So what does that mean? Well, when they list the tokens, we're going to take a look at the last two. We're going to take a look at BTT, which is what we have up here. So this was the BitTorrent ICO. And let's take a look at what happened. This is an hourly chart. First hour, coin lists at 9 sats, moves up to 16 sats. Okay, the price drifts down. How long does it drift down for? So that from that first hour, we drift down, and then we start making a move up around here. So we drift down for 3 days, 2 hours. Okay, off that initial listing. And then what you could do too is you can also create a trend line off this move here. And then when that starts to break that trend line, you can then start looking, okay, we've broken the trend line. Let's take a look. Another thing is that, well, you got to move up, and then you started seeing some volume come in back in here. So it got really quiet, and then volume picked back up. And that proceeded to move quite a bit. I mean, that was a big move up. Everyone, started chasing it. The bots started getting in there, and you basically had a nice run up to which we can put a price range on this. This run up here went up to 164%. So that's a huge move, just a huge move. Okay. So that being said, and then at that point, when you catch a good move like that, you can just start trailing a stop up. You can take some profits and trail the stop up, maybe do 3 profit targets, and then start moving your stops and trailing your stops up, because that's a pretty strong move. Okay, so the next one we wanted to look at is going to be Fetch, F-E-T, BTC. See how this performed from the get-go. So let's go back to the initial. So now now that we saw, BitTorrent got listed, I think people saw the potential now for this. So this one here, we saw the initial open was at 10,984 sats, spiked up to 13, spiked down to 7, big range here. People obviously probably dumping, trying to get profit. Again here, we see that price moved down and then got bought back up. Now notice on this one, price really, the move on this was actually rather quick. So if we measure the date range, so which is going to be quick now, where price started to move back up off the initial low, was 9 hours. Okay, so 9 hours, this thing put in a low and then moved higher. And how high did it move? Let's take a look. We got price range here, so let's go from let's say we take this trend line break here, okay, and we measure up to this. That's a 39% move. So again, another decent move. Not as much as the BitTorrent one, but again, these are not moves to sneeze at. So again, very good moves that you can take profit on here. So on this one here, as price travels down, we can take a look at the trend line. And so let's just say after this initial next thrust down, we take a trend line like that. You get that break, you can buy that break, okay? Chops sideways for a bit, for another day or so, and then takes back off again. So The key though is I think, you know, letting this trend down, because you're going to have some really wild initial reactions, and then you're going to start to see a trend down. I think is a pretty consistent theme on these. This one was very short-lived though. Trend down, let that trend down, let that break, and then that's your entry. Okay, so we'll be watching that tonight on this seller token as that lists. Um, and that's basically, you know, guys, I think after that first initial pump is you just kind of want to get out. Once you get this, you know, you're gonna get that break, you're gonna pause, and you're gonna start seeing that trend. Then you want to just make sure that you're kind of trailing up stops. But again, I think you know, looking at maybe like 3 profit targets, and this is all you know, this, when it's moving up like this, there's really nothing to go off of other than the fact that you're just, all you can really do is trail stops, because knowing where the top is on these, it's just, you don't know. So you just have to basically, you know, with these levels of where you have consolidation and then it makes another move higher. So like up here where it consolidated, you'd be like, okay, putting the stop basically at this level here, and then as it broke down, you stop out. And then price came back up to test it again, couldn't bust through, and then they sold, and then sold again because of the shorts, short stops. I mean the stops hitting, and then more selling pressure. And then price on FET just continued to go down, go down. You have random spike there, and just more down, down, down. So, and way below the lows of the initial day. So, and never really saw anything. So, as you can see, these are not tokens that you probably want to buy and hold. I mean, we can look at the BitTorrent 2 long term, BTT, BTC. You know, what do we have here? Again, that initial spike up. This one has actually performed a little better from the get-go. You know, it's actually holding some gains. I think BitTorrent probably more, you know, obviously the more popular application, so it's probably got more bullish interest. Again, these projects you really have to take a look at. I'm not going to get into them as far as the viability of them. I think that they're all speculative, but I think, you know, very short term is what you need to be looking at with these. If you want to hold them for a longer term, possible, you know, long-term gainer, you know, have a little bit, but I wouldn't invest a whole bunch in these just because, you know, they're just highly speculative. Why do you need a BitTorrent token? You know, I don't, for this project, and I'm just making an example of this, I don't really see the overwhelming need for that when there's a whole other bunch of BitTorrent applications out there. And let's face it, most BitTorrent applications are, people are, you know, downloading things because they don't want to pay for it, right? And so they're not going to look for a token to want to use their torrent application. So just as this example alone, I don't see a whole lot of bullish case long-term scenario. That's just me. But that being said, on all of these, I think there's a tremendous amount of upside for these tokens. So as these things list, that's where I think BNB would be, or I'm sorry, on Binance, when these things list, I think that's something to keep an eye on. So for tonight, what we'll do is, I know it's going to be late, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. We're going to be looking for that initial listing, probably a big range, and then let that first hour play out. It might be tempting to dive in, but you just want to let that first hour play out. Wait for that downtrend to establish. So it might not even be something that you probably wake up in the morning and check it out. But let that hourly trend down establish, and then as we start seeing some volume come back in, that's when you want to basically take a look at getting long. So you can see here on BitTorrent, initial volume drops off, gets really quiet, right? And then notice here we see the volume pick back up, trend line break. If we look at FET, or Fetch, but FET BTC, we see volume, we see this trend line actually break, and that actually didn't really get the party started. Where the party started was when the volume picked back up. So there's a theme where you have the volume come down, you have a theme where the trend line breaks, but volume gets quiet. So you could have been like, oh man, volume died off, I got on this trend line break, it's not going anywhere. You could set a stop here, or you could wait, but the theme has been initial listing, initial trend, quiet period, volume picks back up. You could always wait for that big volume to pick back up. So when you see that first volume bar here, which is that big bar, most people don't want to buy that. That is a big chunk of that move, but wasn't the entire move, and there was more upside after that. But that's something to keep an eye on. But just know that that's kind of the going theme. So we will try to get an entry off of tomorrow, and we'll see how that plays out and see what kind of upside percentage. It's also going to be interesting to see how much upside percentage we get as these things roll out. So the first one with BitTorrent was, over 100% gain. This fetch was just under 40%. Again, I think the BitTorrent project was, obviously more popular, more well known, so that could have played a part in it. But it'll be interesting to see how this stuff plays out. The other thing I wanted to look at was what does the Binance token do when these things get listed? So one thing you can do is you can compare. All right, so let's overlay BNB BTC. Okay, so when the token gets listed, as you can see with Binance, with FET, it lists, there's just basically some chop. Notice that Binance starts moving up, almost like a leading indicator, right? And then we see a big surge in FET, which actually drops the BTC price, and then FET starts leading, and then BTC starts to come up after that, and then a little bit of some similarity in price action, and then BNB starts to take off. All right, and you see basically the price divergence here. BNB starts going up and FET drops. So how does that compare to the BTC, BTC, BitTorrent, Bitcoin? Okay, so let's get back to the beginning. What happens on the listing? Binance coin basically goes up the entire time. From the time it was listed, Binance coin goes up. So you can overlay the Binance coin on this chart, but it seems like when these list, that Binance tends to rise. So it's an interesting phenomenon. Again, if we look at the FET BTC, it lists, and from the moment it lists, Binance just rises. BNB just rises. Interesting, yeah? So that'll be something to watch too, for Binance, to see if we get an entry on that as well. I am looking for an entry long on Binance. I think this Binance Launchpad new rule, which is on the video we posted to YouTube, you'll see that's an interesting dynamic that we'll watch for plays on as well. But anyway, just want to give you guys a heads up on that for tonight's listing, something to do for you night owls and to look at. But again, we may not see a play on that. It might take several hours for the downtrend to play out, and then you can start to see an up move. But just keep in mind, the things here is let the first hour play out, let the subsequent trend play out, watch the volume die off, and then a volume spike, and that's where you're going to see the next wave of buyers come in. And that's probably within a high percentage of likelihood to play out on this next one, Seller token, CELR. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I will catch you guys in the room. Thanks for watching.